Tell me, Mr. Bennett, why is the medication we recalled this morning in your pocket? The question landed softer than a whisper and heavier than a judge's gavel. Noah Bennett stood in the center of the 68th floor boardroom of Whitmore Tower, still wearing his faded delivery jacket, still clutching an insulated courier bag that smelled faintly of coffee, printer ink, and panic. Around him sat 15 experts in tailored suits, each one frozen behind a laptop, each one suddenly very interested in the tiny white pill rolling across the black marble floor. It had slipped from Noah's pocket when Grant Whitmore ordered security to search him. It had bounced once, twice, then stopped beside the polished shoes of Alexander Whitmore, Alpha CEO, corporate legend, and the kind of man whose silence could make an entire room sit up straighter. Noah's first thought was not noble. It was not strategic. It was wonderfully and uselessly great. I'm going to be arrested in a building with better lighting than my entire apartment. His second thought came colder. That pill was his scent blocker. Cheap, chalky, purchased from a discount pharmacy 3 bus rides away because the good brands cost more than his weekly groceries. It was supposed to keep him ordinary, safe, unnoticed. A quiet Omega moving through a city that loved pretending it was fair, as long as people like Noah stayed in the service elevators and said thank you when doors closed in their faces. But Alexander did not look disgusted. He did not step back. He crouched, picked up the pill between 2 fingers, and studied the tiny blue stripe down its side. The room seemed to hold its breath. Even the air conditioning sounded guilty. Grant leaned back with a smile sharp enough to cut paper. Convenient, isn't it? A delivery contractor wanders into our crisis meeting, claims he sees a pattern our specialists missed, and just happens to carry compromised Omega medication linked to the missing shipments. Noah's cheeks went hot. His fingers tightened around the strap of his bag until the nylon bit into his palm. He wanted to explain that he had not wandered anywhere. He had been sent to the wrong floor by a lobby scanner that hated him personally. He had only glanced through the glass wall because the map on the screen had looked familiar. Not corporate familiar, street familiar. The kind of pattern you learned after running packages through 6 boroughs in rain, heat, and traffic that moved like peanut butter. But his mouth had gone dry, and every expert in the room was looking at him like he was a typo in their perfect report. Alexander rose slowly, the pill resting in his palm like evidence and warning. His silver blonde hair caught the white ceiling lights, his expression unreadable, his blue eyes fixed entirely on Noah. Who gave you this? He asked. Not what are you? Not why are you hiding? Who gave you this? The difference hit Noah so hard, he almost forgot to breathe. For the first time that day, maybe for the first time in years, someone powerful was not asking him to defend his existence. Someone was asking where the danger came from. Noah swallowed, glanced at the map still glowing behind the experts, then at the pill in Alexander's hand. And suddenly the two things connected with a quiet click inside his mind. The bad routes, the swapped labels, the discount pharmacies, the same blue stripe. His pulse stumbled. The pattern had not led to him. It had found him. 12 hours earlier, Noah Bennett woke up to the sound of his phone screaming from the cracked milk crate he used as a nightstand. The alarm read 5:15 in the morning, which felt less like a time and more like a personal attack. His apartment was cold enough to make the floorboards complain under his bare feet, and the radiator beneath the window clicked twice, sighed dramatically, and gave up on helping anyone. Noah stared at it through half-open eyes. Same, he muttered, because sometimes talking to appliances was the only relationship in his life with honest communication. The room was barely 400 square feet, tucked above a laundromat in Queens, with one narrow window, one stubborn sink, and one neighbor who practiced saxophone at hours that suggested either artistic dedication or a curse. Noah pulled on his jeans, his delivery company shirt, and the faded navy jacket with Bennett printed on a peeling plastic badge. He looked in the mirror above the sink and found the usual evidence of survival. Soft brown hair refusing organization, gray-blue eyes that looked permanently undercaffeinated, and an expression that said he had been emotionally defeated by rent before sunrise. On the counter sat the small orange bottle of scent blockers he had bought 3 days ago from a discount pharmacy near the subway station. The pharmacist had called them perfectly safe in the same tone people used when selling used cars with interesting engine noises. Noah shook one pill into his palm. It was white with a tiny blue stripe. Ugly little thing. Expensive little thing. Necessary little thing. He swallowed it with tap water and waited for the familiar dullness to settle over his senses, that flat artificial calm that made him easier for the world to ignore. Being an Omega was not illegal. People loved saying that. They said it in workplace posters, school assemblies, public service advertisements, all with smiling models who had perfect teeth and probably never had to choose between blockers and groceries. In real life, being an Omega meant extra paperwork, extra warnings, extra glances that slid over your body like price tags. Noah had learned to move quickly, speak politely, and smell like absolutely nothing. His first delivery pickup was in Long Island City, 3 insulated bags of pastries for an investment firm that tipped in motivational advice. By 7:30, he was weaving through traffic on his battered electric bike, shoulders hunched against the wind, coffee cooling in the cup holder, the city unfolding around him in honks, steam, sirens, and morning light bouncing off glass towers. His final assigned stop before noon made his stomach tighten. Whitmore Tower in Midtown Manhattan. 68 floors of money, chrome, and alphas who looked at delivery workers as if they had arrived with the weather. Noah told himself it was fine. Drop the envelope. Get the signature. Leave before anyone noticed the cheap blocker fading at the edges of his skin. Simple. Tragically, Noah Bennett's life had a deep commitment to not being simple. Whitmore Tower rose out of Midtown like it had been designed by someone who believed subtlety was a character flaw. 68 floors of mirrored glass caught the pale winter sun and threw it back at the city in sharp silver sheets. Noah parked his battered electric bike at the courier rack between 2 sleek black cars that probably cost more than every apartment he had ever lived in combined. He adjusted the strap of his insulated bag, checked the envelope code on his phone, and told his nervous system to stop acting like he had walked into a court hearing. The lobby smelled like polished stone, expensive coffee, and the faint clean bite of alpha cologne buried under industrial air filters. Security scanned his badge, then scanned him with their eyes, which somehow felt more invasive. The guard at the desk gave Noah a temporary pass and pointed toward the elevators without smiling. Executive delivery. 64th floor. Noah nodded too fast. Great. Perfect. Love floors that require altitude training. The guard did not react. Tough room. Noah crossed the lobby, shoes squeaking faintly on marble so shiny he could see his own worried face passing beneath him like a ghost with student debt. The first elevator was full of people in suits discussing market forecasts in voices that sounded allergic to feelings. Noah waited for the next one, hugging the delivery bag to his chest. When the doors opened, he stepped inside alone and pressed 64. For one miraculous second, he thought the universe had decided to be kind. Then a hand entered between the closing doors, and they slid open again. Alexander Whitmore stepped in. Noah knew him instantly because everyone knew him instantly. His face lived on business magazines, airport screens, and the kind of charity gala articles Noah only saw when customers left newspapers behind in cafes. In person, he was taller than expected, broad-shouldered in a charcoal coat, silver blonde hair swept neatly back, blue eyes lowered to a phone glowing with unread messages. The air changed around him. Not loudly, not dramatically. It simply reorganized itself, as if the elevator had remembered who owned the building. Noah stared straight ahead at the floor numbers with the desperate focus of a man trying not to look at a solar eclipse. The blocker in his system gave a small, traitorous flicker. Beneath the sterile elevator air came a clean scent like cedar wood after snow, calm and cold enough to make Noah's spine straighten. He tightened his grip on the bag. Absolutely not, body. We are a professional. We deliver envelopes. We do not have atmospheric reactions to billionaires. Alexander glanced up. Not sharply, not suspiciously, just enough to notice Noah's shoulders drawn high and his thumb rubbing a nervous circle against the bag strap. Crowded morning, he asked. His voice was low, even, and strangely normal. Noah blinked. CEOs were not supposed to speak to delivery guys. They were supposed to nod through them like lobby furniture. Something like that, Noah said, then immediately wished he had chosen a sentence with more dignity. The elevator climbed in silence. At the 32nd floor, it gave a soft mechanical shudder, and Noah's stomach jumped into his throat. He hated elevators. He hated small spaces. He especially hated small spaces with calm alpha CEOs who smelled like a forest had gotten into graduate school. Alexander noticed. Of course he did. Without saying anything, he shifted half a step farther away, giving Noah more room near the control panel. It was such a small movement that anyone else might have missed it. Noah did not. The space between them widened by maybe 8 inches, but it felt like someone had opened a window. Noah looked down. Startled by a warmth in his chest he had no interest in investigating. The doors opened on the 64th floor, and Noah stepped out too quickly. "Thanks," he said, though he was not sure for what. Alexander held the door with one hand. "You are welcome, Mr. Bennett." Noah froze. His name. Alexander had read the peeling badge on his jacket. That was all. Obviously. Normal people read badges. Normal billionaires probably read tax codes for fun. Still, as the doors closed, Noah stood in the hallway with his pulse tapping at his ribs and the terrible feeling that being noticed by Alexander Whitmore was not the kind of thing a person simply survived and forgot. The 64th floor looked less like an office and more like a museum exhibit titled People with Dental Plans. Everything was glass, white oak, and soft lighting that made even the trash cans seem financially stable. Noah found the reception desk, handed over the envelope, and waited while a woman in a cream blazer scanned the barcode with the expression of someone performing a delicate medical procedure. The scanner beeped red. She frowned. Noah's soul immediately packed a bag and left. "This package is not for this floor," she said. "It says executive logistics. 68th. Noah looked at his phone. The app clearly said 64th, because of course it did. His delivery app had the survival instincts of a raccoon in traffic. "Are you sure?" he asked, already knowing that asking rich buildings if they were sure was how poor people lost arguments. The receptionist turned the screen toward him. 68. Noah smiled the smile of a man whose schedule had just been pushed into a lake. Amazing. Love a vertical plot twist. She did not laugh. Nobody in this building laughed unless a stock price rose. A security escort was supposed to take him up, but the receptionist was pulled into a call, waved vaguely toward the private elevators, and said, "Just drop it at the conference desk. They are expecting urgent materials." That sounded like permission. It also sounded like the opening sentence in a legal deposition, but Noah was already late for 3 more deliveries and one elderly customer in Brooklyn who had once tipped him with homemade banana bread. He stepped into the private elevator, pressed 68, and told himself he would be invisible. In, signature out. A human paperclip with sneakers. The doors opened to a quieter world. The top floor did not buzz like the others. It hummed, low and controlled, with thick carpets swallowing his footsteps and frosted glass walls turning people into moving shadows. Noah followed signs for executive conference, but halfway down the hall, voices spilled through a door left slightly open. Not normal meeting voices. Crisis voices. The kind people used when pretending not to panic because their watches cost more than panic was allowed to. Noah slowed despite every sensible part of his brain yelling keep walking. Inside, a wall-sized digital map glowed blue and red, covered in delivery routes, warehouse codes, timestamps, and flashing error points across New York City, New Jersey, and parts of Connecticut. Around the table sat experts, 15 of them by Noah's quick count, all talking over one another in polished degrees and expensive frustration. At the head of the room stood Alexander Whitmore, coat gone, sleeves neat, expression carved from winter. Grant Whitmore leaned beside the screen, smiling too easily. Noah should have moved. He really should have. But the map caught him by the throat. The red points were not random. They bent around bridge traffic. They avoided camera-heavy loading zones. They doubled back near discount pharmacies and late-night courier hubs. Noah knew those turns. He had taken those shortcuts at 2 in the afternoon with a dying bike battery and soup leaking through a paper bag. One expert said, "The distribution failures appear mathematically inconsistent." Another answered, "There is no human logic to the sequence." Noah forgot where he was. He forgot the marble floors, the glass walls, the fact that he was one badge scan away from unemployment. He stared at the map and whispered, "That is not a supply chain error. That is a delivery route." The room went silent. 15 heads turned. Grant's smile sharpened. Alexander looked at Noah through the open door, and this time, there was no polite distance in his gaze. There was attention. Dangerous, focused attention. "Come in," Alexander said. Noah's stomach dropped clean through the carpet. Wonderful. He had become visible. For 3 full seconds, Noah Bennett considered pretending he had been addressing a nearby plant. Unfortunately, there were no plants. Just 15 experts, one suspicious executive cousin, and Alexander Whitmore watching him with the calm intensity of a man who could turn silence into a performance review. Noah stepped into the conference room because his legs apparently had no respect for his survival instincts. The door whispered shut behind him. It sounded final. Grant Whitmore looked him up and down, from the scuffed sneakers to the faded courier badge, and smiled like Noah was a stain someone had dragged across the carpet. "Are we taking logistics advice from delivery contractors now?" he asked. A few people shifted in their chairs. Nobody laughed, which almost made it worse. Noah held the envelope tighter against his chest. "I was not giving advice. I was accidentally having a thought out loud. It is a medical condition called having terrible timing." Still nothing. Toughest audience in Manhattan. Alexander did not move from the head of the table. "Explain what you saw." Noah glanced at the map, then at the row of experts waiting for him to embarrass himself. His throat felt too small. The room smelled like coffee, leather chairs, filtered air, and pressure. Somewhere under that, faint but steady, was Alexander's cedar-cold presence, not crowding him, just there. Weirdly, it helped. Noah took one careful step toward the screen. "You are looking at warehouses, batch numbers, and failed transfers," he said. "That makes sense if the system is broken. But the system is not broken. It is being used by someone who knows how couriers actually move." One expert frowned. "The model already accounts for delivery traffic." "No," Noah said before fear could tackle him. "It accounts for legal routes. Official routes. Routes people draw when they have never had to get a hot lunch from Midtown to Astoria in 20 minutes while 3 avenues are blocked and 1 elevator is out." A thin silence spread. Noah pointed to the first red cluster. "This stop should connect to the warehouse in Secaucus, but it curves south first. That is not efficient unless the driver is avoiding toll cameras near the tunnel." His finger moved to another point. "This one looks random, but there is a 24-hour pharmacy 2 blocks away that takes courier drop-offs after midnight. This one doubles back near a building with a broken loading dock. Everyone who delivers there knows you use the alley behind the bakery." The experts leaned closer despite themselves. Grant's smile began to fade around the edges. Noah felt his pulse climb, but now the fear had something to do. It became motion. It became memory. Rain on his jacket. Steam from manholes. The smell of pizza boxes, wet pavement, and cheap brakes. "These are not errors," he said. "They are habits. Someone is moving your shipments through places that look invisible on a spreadsheet because they are normal to people like me." Alexander's gaze sharpened. "Can you identify the next point?" Noah looked at the map, followed the red marks. "Imagine the city not from above, but from handlebars, sidewalks, locked doors, and tired security guards." His finger stopped over Queens. "There," he said softly. "Tomorrow morning. 6:45. Under the bridge near Vernon Boulevard." The room went still in a different way this time. Not dismissive. Not amused. Listening. Alexander turned to his assistant. "Verify it." Keys clicked. A few seconds passed. The assistant looked up, pale. "There is an unscheduled transfer request pending for that exact area." Noah exhaled, and the sound felt too loud. Grant recovered first. Lucky guess. Alexander did not look at him. He looked at Noah as if the entire room had just shifted around one unexpected truth. "Mr. Bennett," he said, voice low and controlled. "How soon can you show me the rest?" Noah blinked. "I am supposed to deliver a fruit basket to Brooklyn." Alexander's mouth almost moved. "Almost. I will handle the fruit basket." And that was the moment Noah realized the most powerful alpha in the city was not sending him away. He was making room. Alexander Whitmore handled the fruit basket with one quiet phone call, which was apparently how billionaires bent reality without raising their voices. Noah watched from the edge of the conference table as Alexander told someone named Marissa to reroute all of Mr. Bennett's pending deliveries, compensate the clients, notify his dispatcher, and send an apology basket to Brooklyn. Noah opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, and decided silence was the only way to avoid sounding like a man witnessing financial witchcraft. 2 minutes later, his phone buzzed with a message from his supervisor saying his route had been covered and he was temporarily assigned to a private corporate contract at triple pay. Triple pay. Noah stared at the screen. His brain made a tiny dial-up noise and left the building. "Is that acceptable?" Alexander asked. Noah looked up. I think my rent just cried. For the first time, something almost like amusement touched Alexander's face. It vanished quickly, but Noah saw it. He absolutely saw it, and his heart chose that moment to behave like an unsupervised shopping cart. Grant was not amused. He stood near the glass wall, arms folded, watching Noah like a puzzle piece he wanted to snap in half without leaving fingerprints. This is reckless, Grant said. We cannot bring an unvetted courier into an executive investigation. Alexander did not turn. He found in 5 minutes what 15 vetted consultants missed in 5 days. The room went so quiet Noah could hear someone's pen stop clicking. Grant's jaw tightened. Noah should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt like a raccoon that had accidentally been promoted to lead NASA. Alexander dismissed most of the room, keeping only his assistant, 2 data analysts, Grant and Noah. The giant map shifted to a more detailed view of the city. Routes brightened. Timestamps crawled across the screen. Noah stepped closer, still gripping the strap of his delivery bag like it was emotional support luggage. I need street-level context, Alexander said. Not projections. Not models. What a driver would actually do. Noah nodded, because that was safer than admitting his knees were still considering retirement. They worked for the next hour, side by side. No closer than necessary, but close enough that Noah noticed details he had no business noticing. Alexander's cuff links were simple brushed silver. His handwriting was precise, but fast. He listened without interrupting, which felt illegal for an alpha in a boardroom. When Noah pointed to a route through Long Island City and explained that a driver would avoid a certain loading dock because the security guard took lunch at 1 o'clock sharp, Alexander did not laugh. He added a note. When Noah mentioned a pharmacy chain where discount Omega medications were often picked up through courier lockers, Alexander's pen paused. Repeat that, he said softly. Noah did, slower this time. The analysts pulled records. A new cluster appeared. Then another. Then 6 more. All connected to low-cost pharmacies across Queens, the Bronx, and Newark. The room lost temperature. Noah stared at the blue-striped medication code glowing on the screen, and something cold slipped under his ribs. It matched the bottle in his apartment. It matched the pill in his pocket. His blocker had not simply been cheap. It had been part of the map. Alexander noticed his silence before anyone else did. He reached for the air filtration controls on the wall and increased the circulation without making a scene. Then he placed a glass of water near Noah's hand, not touching him, not asking questions in front of the others. Just there. Steady. Careful. Noah looked at the glass, then at Alexander. For one stupid second, the world narrowed to that small kindness. Grant's voice cut through it. How convenient that our courier knows so much about compromised Omega medication. Noah felt the room turn again, sharp and hungry. Alexander's eyes cooled. Choose your next words carefully. Grant smiled. I always do. And Noah, staring at the pattern blooming across the screen, realized the investigation had stopped being about missing shipments. Somehow, impossibly, it had become about him. By noon, the conference room no longer felt like a place where powerful people solve problems. It felt like a glass box slowly filling with invisible smoke. The map on the wall had changed from a corporate disaster into something uglier, something personal, each glowing line connecting warehouses, courier lockers, and discount pharmacies that served neighborhoods where people did not ask too many questions because affordable medicine was already a miracle. Noah stood near the screen with his sleeves pushed to his wrists, trying to keep his hands still. He had spent his life being careful. Careful with his scent. Careful with his voice. Careful not to look angry when someone called him fragile, emotional, or lucky to have any job at all. But the longer he stared at those blue-striped medication codes, the more his carefulness began to crack. These are not random low-cost suppliers, he said, his voice quieter than he wanted. They are all places that serve Omegas who cannot afford private clinics. Night workers. Students. Contractors. People paying cash. One analyst looked up, face pale. The affected batches were never flagged in our public recall system. Noah laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Of course they were not. People like me do not get recalls. We get a paper sign taped to the pharmacy window 3 weeks late. The room absorbed that without knowing what to do with it. Alexander stood beside him, still as a locked door, but something in his expression had shifted. The cold was still there, controlled and precise. But beneath it Noah saw the first clean edge of anger. Not loud, not careless, directed. Grant sighed as if everyone had become dramatic for his inconvenience. This is speculation from a courier with personal bias. Noah turned toward him before fear could stop him. Personal bias is what you call it when the people getting hurt are poor enough to ignore. Silence snapped into place. Noah immediately regretted having a spine. His inner voice, always helpful, whispered, "Congratulations, you have yelled at a rich alpha in his natural habitat. Please enjoy unemployment." But Alexander did not reprimand him. He simply looked at Grant. "Do not interrupt him again." Grant's smile twitched. Noah forced himself to look back at the screen. His finger traced the newest cluster, then stopped near a chain pharmacy in Queens. "I know this one." The courier lockers faced the alley, not the street. Cameras above the front door would miss pickups after closing. The analyst pulled the footage request. A timestamp appeared. 6:42 in the morning. Then another. 6:45. 6:49. The same pattern, repeated across locations. Alexander stepped closer to the screen. Someone is using legitimate medical shipments as cover. Not just cover, Noah said. His stomach had gone cold. A filter. The good medication goes one way. The damaged or altered batches go to places where nobody has the money to challenge the label. His own pocket suddenly felt heavy, even though the pill bottle was not there. He pictured his apartment sink, the orange bottle, the tiny blue stripe. He pictured swallowing trust because trust had been cheaper than safety. The room blurred at the edges. Alexander noticed instantly. Noah, not Mr. Bennett. Noah. Soft, careful, steady. It grounded him more than it should have. Noah blinked hard and straightened. "I am fine." He was not fine. He was approximately one emotional breeze away from becoming floor decoration, but pride had been holding him together since childhood and apparently had no retirement plan. Grant moved toward the door, phone in hand. "I am calling legal. This has gone far enough." Alexander's voice stopped him. "No one leaves until we know who approved those transfers." Grant turned slowly. "You are treating a delivery boy like a lead investigator." Alexander looked at Noah, then back at Grant. "No," he said. "I am treating him like the first person in this room who understood the crime." Noah felt those words land somewhere deep, somewhere bruised and hungry. For a second, the glass tower, the experts, the fear, all of it faded behind one impossible truth. Alexander Whitmore believed him. And that was exactly when the conference room doors opened, security stepped in, and Grant's smile returned like a knife hidden inside a handshake. "Then you should also know," Grant said smoothly, "that every transfer we just traced was authorized through Noah Bennett's courier account." Security did not rush. That somehow made it worse. Two uniformed guards stepped inside with polite faces and tablets in their hands, as if they had arrived to update a printer instead of quietly rearrange Noah's entire life. The conference room tilted around him. Every glowing route on the wall seemed to point back at his chest, every expert suddenly remembering that he was not one of them, that he wore a courier jacket instead of a tailored suit, that he had walked in carrying a bag and an accent shaped by subway platforms, customer complaints, and too many apologies. Grant spread his hands with graceful regret, the kind rich people wore when they had prepared the trap and wanted applause for the table setting. The authorization logs are clear. Bennett Courier Access, temporary contractor number 7492. His account approved the transfers, including the pharmacy substitutions. Noah stared at the screen. His name sat there in clean black letters beside timestamps he had never seen. It looked official. It looked damning. It looked like a version of himself built by someone who hated him with excellent software. "That is not mine," he said. His voice came out thin, embarrassingly thin. "I mean, it is my account, but I did not approve anything. I deliver food, envelopes, flowers, once a taxidermied raccoon that I still have questions about. I do not approve medical shipments." No one smiled. Not even the raccoon deserved this room. Grant gave him a pitying look. A convenient explanation. One guard stepped forward. "We need you to empty your pockets, Mr. Bennett." Noah froze. His blocker. The cheap pill. The tiny blue stripe. His stomach folded in on itself. If they saw it, the room would know. Not guess. No. Omega. Hidden. Unregistered for high-security floors. Every ugly word people dressed up as policy would fall out of the ceiling and land on him. Noah's hand trembled as he reached into his jacket. Coins. Receipt. Phone. A subway card with $8.20 left. Then the pill slipped between his fingers, bounced on the marble, and rolled across the floor until it stopped beside Alexander's shoes. The room inhaled. Grant's smile became quiet and bright. "Well," he said, "that explains why our courier was so interested in Omega medication." Heat rushed into Noah's face. Not desire, not instinct, just pure humiliation burning clean through his skin. He wanted to disappear so completely the building would forget his shoe size. Alexander bent, picked up the pill, and studied the blue stripe. His expression changed by one fraction, but Noah saw it. Recognition, not accusation. Recognition. "This batch was recalled this morning," Alexander said. Grant lifted an eyebrow. "And yet he has it." Alexander looked at Noah. "Who gave you this?" The question landed differently from all the others. It did not push Noah into a corner. It opened a door. Noah swallowed around the fear in his throat. The pharmacy on Roosevelt Avenue. Cash counter. No insurance. They said it was safe. Alexander turned to the analysts. "Pull the recalled distribution list for that location." Keys clicked. A pause. Then the assistant's voice shook. It was never notified. Noah stared at the map, at the dates, at the pharmacy code, at his own false authorization sitting too neatly in the middle of everything. Too neat. Too perfect. His fear sharpened into something useful. "Wait," he whispered. He stepped closer to the screen, ignoring the way Grant stiffened. "The account logs are wrong." One expert frowned. "The digital signature matches." "No," Noah said, pointing before he could lose courage. "The times do not. These approvals happened at 6:45 every morning, but my route app locks me out during safety check until 6:50. Every courier knows that because we complain about it daily like it is a national sport." The analyst checked. Her eyes widened. Alexander's voice went very quiet. "Show the access origin." A new line appeared. Executive Internal Terminal. Floor 68. Private Administrative Network. Noah followed the code, then the elevator access beside it, then the recurring room reservation attached to each transfer. His finger stopped under one name. Grant Whitmore. The silence that followed was not empty. It was the sound of a trap turning around and finding its owner. Grant Whitmore did not move at first. He simply stood there in his perfect suit, wearing the expression of a man waiting for reality to apologize and correct itself. The room waited with him. No one spoke. The glowing screen held his name in clean white letters, attached to terminal logs, elevator access, administrative overrides, and transfer requests that suddenly looked less like evidence against Noah and more like a diary written by arrogance. Noah stared at the screen, then at Grant, then back at the screen, because some part of him needed the proof to stay visible. Proof had a bad habit of disappearing when rich people got uncomfortable. Alexander did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "Lock his access," he said. His assistant moved. Instantly. "Done." Grant's smile finally cracked. "Alexander, think carefully." "I am." 2 words. Calm. Final. The kind of calm that made the air sit straighter. Grant looked around the table, searching for support, but the experts who had dismissed Noah 20 minutes earlier were now fascinated by their keyboards, their coffee cups, the ceiling, anything that did not require loyalty to his sinking ship. Noah almost felt bad for him. Almost. Then he remembered the pharmacies, the fake approvals, the pill in Alexander's palm, and his sympathy packed its bags. Alexander turned to legal counsel on the wall screen. "Preserve all records and notify federal regulators. Every affected pharmacy receives verified replacement stock by tonight. No delays. No internal review theater. Tonight." The council began to object, then saw Alexander's face and chose a healthier life path. Noah stood very still as the room transformed around him from accusation to action. Analysts began pulling data. Call started. Recall notices went out. Someone said the words emergency fund. Someone else said patient reimbursement. The map that had trapped Noah now widened, line by line, into a rescue plan. It should have felt victorious. Instead, his knees chose that exact moment to remember gravity. He reached for the edge of the table, missed by an inch, and would have embarrassed himself permanently if Alexander had not stepped close, steadying the chair beside him without touching Noah at all. Not grabbing, not claiming, just making sure there was somewhere safe to land. "Sit down," Alexander said softly. Noah sat, because arguing with kindness required energy he no longer owned. The glass of water appeared near his hand again. He looked at it and let out a shaky laugh. You know, when I woke up today, my biggest problem was a fruit basket in Brooklyn. Alexander's mouth softened. I sent two. Noah blinked. That feels excessive. I was making a point. To the fruit. This time Alexander actually smiled, small and brief, but real enough to make the brutal white conference lights seem warmer. Noah should not have noticed. Naturally, he noticed everything. By late afternoon, Grant was escorted out by corporate legal and compliance staff, looking less like a villain and more like a man discovering that consequences had excellent tailoring. Security returned Noah's phone, his subway card, and his dignity, although the last one felt slightly wrinkled. The experts avoided his eyes until one older analyst cleared her throat and said, Mr. Bennett, your route analysis was exceptional. Noah opened his mouth, prepared to deflect, apologize, or turn into dust. Alexander answered first. Yes, he said. It was. That simple agreement landed harder than applause. When the crisis finally settled into controlled motion, Noah expected dismissal. A polite thank you. A check. Maybe a non-disclosure agreement thick enough to use as furniture. Instead, Alexander walked with him to the lobby himself. People stared. Of course they stared. The Alpha CEO of Whitmore Biogen was crossing marble floors beside an Omega courier in scuffed sneakers and a delivery jacket with one sleeve seam coming loose. At the security desk, Alexander handed Noah a new badge. It was black, weighted, and printed with his name. Executive Logistics Consultant. Noah stared at it, so long the letters blurred. I am not an expert, he said. Alexander stood beside him, close enough for his voice to lower without filling the lobby. 15 experts missed the truth. You did not. Noah swallowed. The city moved beyond the glass doors, loud and gray and impossible. The same city he had biked through that morning thinking he had to stay invisible to survive. Alexander looked at him as if invisibility had never suited him at all. Stay, he said. Not an order. An invitation. Noah touched the edge of the badge, feeling its unfamiliar weight against his fingers. For once, the door in front of him was not closing. For once, someone had seen the pattern, seen the fear beneath it, and chosen to believe him anyway. Noah looked up at Alexander and smiled, tired, terrified, and somehow lighter than he had been in years. Okay, he said, but I want health insurance. Alexander's smile returned, warmer this time. Done. And as Noah stepped back into Whitmore Tower with a badge that opened more than elevators, he knew the strangest delivery of his life had not ended at the top floor. It had only brought him to the beginning.